real creepy place. I don't think I want to spend a night here. But man, sure is cool to look at.
Let's leave everything and go traveling. See what tomorrow brings. It's only a choice away. Let's back up and leave today. Let's see what tomorrow brings.
Well, we pick back up in the Puna of Northwestern Argentina as we are making our way towards a remote abandoned mine called Mina La Casualidad. And when I say remote, I mean it. This mine is 363 miles from the nearest rail gas station, so we're really out here. And after driving on salt flats for a good hour, we suddenly found ourselves on pavement, which was a very strange thing to see after 324 miles of dirt. But this long-forgotten pavement was our first sign of the ghost town we were in search of. This is a vicuña. They are a camelid, the wild ancestor of alpacas, and they are all over out here.
The value of F40. God, I'd love one. I'd love to be able to afford one.
No,
I'm not
speed. He's hauling.
The F40 is an interesting car because it's
Sharp turn.
Yeah.
it's supposed to.
So, a little insight into why this road is paved. Back when Mina La Casualidad was in operation, this road was not only how they got the sulfur ore to the train, which then took the mineral to be processed in Salta, but it was also their only access to food and supplies, delivered by that same train. In fact, there are stories of a landslide taking out this road, and with no hope of a quick repair, the Air Force was brought in to drop food to the stranded miners. This proved to be a difficult and dangerous task due to the high winds in the area. And apparently, the onions never fared too well in these drops, always turning to pulp when they hit the ground. So, this road was pretty critical to not only work, but life itself out here. Oh, and fun fact, this was the highest paved road in the world for a long time. After a little over 40 miles of driving this forgotten road, we finally arrived to the ghost town of Mina La Casualidad.
It's a massive version like that little mine we went to, which was also, sulfur processing facility.
Okay, so a little background on Mina La Casualidad. Like I mentioned, this was a sulfur mine, and the deposit was discovered sometime in the 40s. It was a small-scale operation at first, producing only 1,000 tons of sulfur per year. But soon, after the effects of World War II were being felt by Argentina, this little mining camp grew. Pretty soon, there were 3,000 people living here, and the production had increased to 30,000 tons of sulfur per year. Sadly, by 1979, the dictator of the time shut the production down, and that was it. Now, the actual mine is up the mountain about 9 miles as the crow flies and is called La Julia. And you can see here that it literally sits on the border with Chile. The material extracted at La Julia was sent down the mountain by cable car to the processing plant here in La Casualidad. This was the first stage in the refining process. Here, the sulfur was separated from everything else, bringing the purity from 21% up to 84%. The refined product was then put onto trucks and driven along that paved road we came in on to the train depot in Caipe, about 40 miles away. You'll see that later. From Caipe, the sulfur was transported to Salta to be further refined to a purity of 99.98%. pretty much pure sulfur. And there's a short documentary on YouTube about Mina La Casualidad called El Silencio. I'll link it below if you want to know more.
Well, we made it, and it's very windy, it's very sulfury. It is a huge ghost town. The only life we've seen so far are 2 dogs, but I don't know if there's people here or not.
I feel like the church roof is nice now, somebody could be there.
Yeah, there's a church. Here comes, one of the dogs is still kind of following us up here. But man, this is in the middle of nowhere, and there's a lot here. Pretty cool. Actually kind of creepy, the wind, and there's so much metal to make noises. There's a lot of noises happening everywhere. I don't see anybody but dogs, but it's kind of a creepy place. I don't think I want to spend a night here, but man, sure is cool to look at. And it's not actually as cold as I thought it would, because we're pretty high. We're at 13 or 14,000 feet, so pretty cool.
A little windy. Let me show you these. See these lines?
Yeah.
It's for ore carts. All laying on the ground. You can see up the side of the hill.
Oh wow.
That's where the lines would run. So I don't know if the sulfur came from the Mina Julia, that next mine.
Yeah.
This is the processing facility. Because I don't see a hole in the ground here. This almost all looks like processing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This looked like there was something under construction when they shut the mine.
Yeah.
Awesome. So much work, so much effort.
You can see the line of sulfur left by the carts as they made their way down the mountain. There were a total of 214 carts running the distance from La Julia to the processing plant in La Casualidad. It was a 9-mile and just over 3,000-foot drop between the 2 points. Each cart could carry up to a half-ton of ore, which meant the operation could deliver 40 tons of ore an hour. But of course, it wasn't always running at full capacity. It occasionally broke down, and with the high winds that were just part of life out here, it could get interesting.
Somebody cut the line or eventually snapped under tension, and where it lay, it lay.
After checking out the processing plant, we headed to take a look at the town. It all had an eerie Omega Man I Am Legend vibe, and I'm not ashamed to admit I was a little on edge and thoroughly creeped out here. The fact that these dogs were wandering around made it feel even more odd. The older dog had clearly lived through some very bad injuries. He had some crazy scars that covered his body. I wish they could tell me their story. I can't help but wonder how they got here, how long they've been here, and how they managed to survive out here all alone. I can't help but think, soon they will be only a memory, just like the town they live in.
Are you out here all by yourself? Huh? I think this is where the dogs live, in the little church here.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of creepy.
They're a little bed.
We're gonna leave them whatever old bread or anything that we have, because they're pretty old and they look pretty sad. One of them looks like he's on his last leg, so we'll leave him some food. Seems like they're out here all by themselves, though.
Here. Out of brick.
And we couldn't leave without sharing some food with these two. Next stop was the dump. Maybe it's odd, but I love looking through ghost town trash, finding things like old glass bottles with dates on them, old broken tools. It gives a glimpse into life here. But I have to admit, it's also sad to see so much junk just left out here. Aware of our fuel range and the quickly approaching dusk, we decided not to drive the 25 kilometers up to La Julia, and instead headed back onto the paved road to search for a place to hide from the wind for the night. Well, we didn't have much luck and finally pulled up into what we hoped would turn into a canyon, but it was steeper than it looked from the road and started getting pretty rocky towards the top. Plus, it just wasn't turning into much of a canyon. So we made the choice to just call it here, knowing there weren't any better options around even if we kept driving for hours. So we settled in with hopes that the wind would settle down after dark. Well, the wind never did settle down. Instead, it shook the truck the whole night, the violent gusts sounding like they were about to rip poor Goose apart. Needless to say, neither of us slept much. I camped out in the front seat, and Tim made a makeshift bed from the bench in the back. It wasn't very comfortable, and in the morning we were both anxiously awaiting sunrise so we could get a move on. Luckily, we were both excited to check out the train depot of Caipe, a few miles ahead. This was pretty cool. Sorry for the shaky footage, but I thought it was still worth showing you guys. This is a vicuña, which I told you about earlier, and he is chasing a fox. Apparently the male vicuñas can be pretty territorial, and this fox messed with the wrong guy. Pretty cool to witness.
He's looking at us now.
Where is he hiding? In that fire pit?
Yeah, I think so.
How can you not see him? growling, I'm gonna guess.
It's crazy that he's going after him so much.
I wonder if the foxes eat the babies.
Maybe. But you think they just scare him off and he's like chasing him.
That was amazing to watch though.
So this morning we're checking out the train depot that is closest to the mine that we checked out yesterday. We spent last night, it was a very windy night, and we didn't get quite down the mountain. So we just kind of settled and actually slept in the front seat, and we just kind of made it work without popping the top because it was so windy. But it's pretty calm this morning actually. Windy all night and calm this morning, but really cool train station to check out.
So yeah, this is a train station. It's a spur off the main rail, which you can see right here. And so I don't know if they did maintenance or loaded up chemicals and who knows what else for the mine, but some of the 55-gallon drums say YPF, which is the gas station we always see, 1966. So I think 1966 was sort of the redo. The road out to Mina La Casualidad seems like a railroad gauge, but it's paved, so I think they probably paved it in the 60s, got the mine going or tried to get the mine going, don't know if they did. And so all of these stations have like two eras of buildings, sort of the early buildings and then stuff that looks very 1960s. And it obviously didn't work out because it's all neglected again. Pretty neat.
And the view is just crazy, looking out over some salt flats. Pretty crazy, the whole house is like flooded because the water is still running, and the whole house is, that one is just flooded because one of the showers is still running. One of the rooms has all the old paperwork just strewn about. You can tell it was grand at one point. It's interesting.
Need some grease.
Yeah, everything needs a little grease. It's neat.
Yeah.
So neat. It's crazy that it still works.
Yeah. And you can lock it in place either way. That's amazing.
The pipes are rusted, but there's still pressure.
That must be good.
never seen a whirlwind or twister or whatever you call it be so tall, far up into the sky. Pretty crazy. This is where we stopped for the night. Nothing special. Kind of along the road. Gives us a little wind protection next to these hills. And we're just tired, so we didn't want to drive for a super long way today. As you can tell, it's a bit windy, as it is everywhere out here, but it's less windy than out in the open, and hopefully it dies down. Last night it didn't. Usually it dies down, at least in my experience, around, I don't know, like 10 o'clock or something. So we can only hope.
Thank you guys for watching. Some of you already know, but we now have a store. You can check it out by visiting our website, dirtsunrise.com, and clicking on the store link at the top of the page. I think you'll like what we've picked out. For those of you that have already placed an order, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Don't forget to join us next week as we find some more great campsites, meet back up with friends, and have our fair share of shenanigans. See you next week.